from what we've seen of Quantum Air, there's a lot of similarities, guys, to Dead Space. And there's a lot of, titles that are starting to come out that are kind of in that, spiritual successor of Dead Space. I mean, obviously with the Callisto Protocol coming out, Glenn Schofield is obviously, one of the creators of Dead Space. And so obviously that title from Striking Distance is one that looks like it's going to be for sure a spiritual successor to Dead Space. And then we have obviously the reboot, or I should say really that remake of Dead Space also that's going to be coming out. But what, with Quantum Air, why does this feel different to me than the upcoming Dead Space, the Callisto Protocol? It feels different even though there are those similarities. I think, guys, that Quantum Air for sure is grounded in this concept, right? This cosmic horror FPS title, which is primarily what it is, an FPS, but it also you have that ability, obviously, from the game footage and things of that nature to go into third person, which I think, first of all, really makes this a little bit different than obviously what we've seen from Dead Space, a third person, horror survival shooter. And so obviously, I think Quantum Air, when we start talking about those similarities to Dead Space, when we look at from just a perspective of the environment itself, those closed-in corridors, like it gets it's a very unnerving experience as you're walking through those corridors, it looks like in Quantum Air, similar to what you would have with Dead Space, just from a first-person perspective, right? And so, obviously, Dead Space had its, very unnerving elements to it, but Quantum Air, definitely from the different types of enemies that are in this game, definitely feels a little bit similar to Dead Space, but just in a different way. There are some very unnerving elements and different enemies that I think we're in for a real treat with this title. You can tell that they have been carefully and meticulously put together, and you can obviously see with Team Kill Media what they're doing over there with Quantum Air. They're taking their time with this title. This isn't a title, guys. Obviously, it was announced, a number of years ago, but this is one that they're taking their time with, and I love this because a lot of developers out there, even like the smaller indie developers, they sometimes try to rush out their product, thinking that it's ready to go and things of that nature. And obviously it releases and it's not ready whatsoever. And, so I love this from Team Kill Media. My biggest, hope is that they just continue to take their time, release the game when it's ready. Obviously I'm sure they want to release it, in 2022, and they definitely have a plan in place to do that. Whether it's 2022, whether it's 2023, to me, what it really comes down to is obviously just making the game that is going to be, perfect in their minds, releasing it to the world when it's ready and seeing what everybody thinks of it, which I think at this point and juncture in time, us horror fans are incredibly excited about this title. I'm sure we're going to get more and more updates, and that's one thing that I love about Quantum Air as well, and the folks over at Team Kill, is that they're consistently giving us updates as to what's, what they're working on, what's coming out. They want to be very transparent with the community, and I love this. You don't see this from some of the other development companies out there. They are absolutely wanting to hear everyone's feedback about the title. So with that being said, I even think that when we talk about, just the sheer amount of, characters and things of that nature, as well as the sheer amount of enemies in this upcoming title, I think Captain Jacob Thomas, this character, even though we don't know a lot about him as of yet, I think that does he remind us a little bit of Isaac Clarke, from the Dead Space universe, kind of a quiet character at first, doesn't really say much, which obviously I'm just taking this from the gameplay we've seen, from what we've seen of the trailers, guys. Maybe is this guy going to be kind of like a similar type of personality where he doesn't talk a lot, he's pretty quiet to himself. He just goes in and is really trying to save as many people as he possibly can. As, doing so, finds this entity that is in there that obviously he has to deal with, essentially. And that's going to be something really interesting as you find out more and more about, what went wrong over at the Monad Quantum Research Facility. It'll be really interesting, obviously. So are there similarities to Dead Space? Absolutely, guys. I mean, there is, without question, a lot of similarities to Dead Space. I feel though that this title has some differences though as well. Even though we could say maybe this is, somewhat of a spiritual successor, at the same time I feel like it's a game that stands on its own. It's not going to be completely like Dead Space. I think that it is going to have its own elements and own types of enemies and such. It's definitely nowhere even near a copy and paste of what they did over with Dead Space. Sure, maybe they took a couple of elements, but I think that Team Kill has carefully put this thing together to make it stand on its own, which is incredibly important. And I think they're going to absolutely crush it. But let me know, guys, from what you've seen of the gameplay, what you've seen of the trailers up to this point in time and juncture, do you think there's a lot of, similarities to Dead Space? Do you think there should be, similarities to other horror games out there? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Quantum Error content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.